this next session is kind of something that comes near and dear to my heart. It's about how to not drink alcohol. So there's probably somebody who's watching this cast right now who wants to limit the overall amount of alcohol that they are intaking in their body. And this is tough. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm somebody who has never drank in my whole life. So some of this advice is based off of stuff that I currently do and some of my mindset around it, and hopefully it will give you some guidance as well if you are trying to ultimately quit drinking alcohol. So one of the first things that I think is probably one of the most important is to be around people, friends, or family who don't drink alcohol. And this is for a few different reasons, but one of the big things you'll find is that if you are around people that are doing a certain behavior, they're drinking alcohol, for example, the chances of you drinking alcohol are exponentially increased. We know this just from, let's say, peer pressure. That's a huge thing that often goes talked about. You might just feel like you need to just because you're in the group. That's kind of the social norm, the social setting. That is completely taken away if you're not around people who drink. Think about it. You won't be tempted to do it. You won't feel like you need to do it simply because you're around people that don't. Also, if you are around people who don't drink alcohol, they probably cherish other good aspects of life or other good high quality things, maybe like going to the gym, going to the library instead, doing activities that don't involve around alcohol. That's going to be one of your biggest levers to pull. And I think one of the huge issues that people have when they try to quit drinking alcohol, you might need some new friends and maybe even to reassess your family. Another big tip for this is to also not bring it home. And this seems kind of obvious, but I use the same tactic when I'm talking to people about losing weight and overeating on junk food and desserts. If you don't bring the item in the home to begin with, you don't purchase it, or maybe you do purchase it, but you only have it when you're out to eat, or you only have a little drink and then you throw it away before you come into the home. Not having it in the home makes it so less tempting because you're changing your environment to have it less being focused on alcohol. If you open your cupboard and cabinet and the first thing that you see is immediately wine glasses and alcohol, guess what? That tells your brain, hey, wine glasses and alcohol. If you open up that same cabinet and have some water, like bottled water with low-calorie drink flavoring, drink sweetener next to it, what's your brain going to say? Hey, it's time for water. So not bringing it home, trying to make your environment a little bit better is going to make a huge, profound difference. As we talked about earlier, having activities not around alcohol is a huge thing. So when you have friends that are drinking a lot, they often want to go to the bars. They want to maybe just go to parties, all these different things. Trying to find activities that aren't that are going to be your biggest thing. So maybe you go to an art museum, for example, mini golfing, the movies. I guess the movies can't have alcohol, kind of part of it, but just doing some brainstorming, right? Just doing some brainstorming. Myself personally, I'm kind of biased. I like going to the gym. That's one activity I like to do. I like getting coffee with friends. I go to the library occasionally. I spend time with my family. I have a little brother, he's 13, so I do stuff with him. Trying to become involved in the community. This is another great one. You can go volunteer at places. Usually when you volunteer at places, alcohol is prohibited or you can't do it as much. So try to volunteer. Just be part of something that keeps your mind out of alcohol and where that exact environment doesn't have any alcohol part of it. Also, another way that you can do it is to try to find other ways to cope. So if you're drinking alcohol, a lot of times people do it because they're maybe anxious, they need to unwind from the day. Trying to find other ways to do this instead of leaning on alcohol is going to be a great way to do that. So maybe you could call friends if you're anxious, talk to them. You could meditate if you're anxious. Other ways to cope with your stresses and worries than leaning on alcohol will help you to not drink alcohol. And another big part of understanding why you need to cope is also just looking at why alcohol is appealing for you. Why do you enjoy drinking it? Or why does it just fit well into your life? A lot of times this might be from social norms. You drink it because you want to be part of the group, you want to be accepted, you want to be liked. Maybe you're drinking it because you're anxious, you're feeling overwhelmed, and you don't know what to do. Those are a couple reasons. I'm not saying your reason, but you need to ask yourself when you're looking to grab a glass of wine or a bottle of beer, why do I want that right now? Why do I want that? Is it because I'm tired and I feel like I want to unwind? Okay, let's try to find something else that can help with that. Is it because I'm anxious and I need to calm my nerves? Okay, let's try to find something else that does that. Maybe trying to think of another reason. This is just something to consider. Understanding why you lean towards alcohol and trying to work back from there. Counseling and Alcoholics Anonymous type groups are really great, and this can be kind of one of those other coping mechanisms we talked about when you're trying to decrease the amount of alcohol you're drinking. Another thing that you can do, and this is one I really like, is to focus on other health promoting behaviors. Maybe right now you want to quit alcohol, you want to quit drinking alcohol, but you're finding it a struggle to even start. Sometimes I tell people to focus on something completely different, but it still might actually help to increase their health. So for example, maybe you're still drinking alcohol, but you're going to start working out 2 days a week. You will quickly find, if you do stick to those other habits and do those things, that the chances of you drinking alcohol are way less, because you're going to notice some benefits from working out or maybe eating a little bit healthier. And when you do this, you're going to want to find ways to maximize this. So how can I maximize my workouts and getting better recovery and stuff? As we discussed numerous times through this podcast, if you don't drink alcohol, that can help greatly with improving your overall recovery habits. So focusing on other health promoting behaviors and then hopefully leaning into alcohol at some point would be another good idea too. Don't stress yourself out and think like, oh, this is a lost cause, and if I can't drink alcohol right now, then I'm better off just saying YOLO, just drinking anything or eating anything. I don't care about my health. Still try to do something better for your health. That's a good place to start. Another good tip is to lower your standards on what you actually want to achieve. So if you are somebody who you want to go cold turkey, you don't want to drink anymore, that's a great thing to want and to have long term. But when you're first starting out, that's incredibly tough, especially with the addictive nature of alcohol. So something I would recommend is to really lower your standards on, instead of drinking, maybe wanting to go cold turkey today, think about having a little bit less of your alcohol. So for example, pour a drink for yourself, pour a glass of wine, have your bottle of beer, but instead of drinking all of it, just pour a little bit out. Pour a tiny bit out. You're drinking a little bit less. You're not going full cold turkey, but you're bringing down the overall amount you're drinking. And over time, if you continually do this and build up that confidence that you can do it, it's going to make a profound difference on your health. And once you build in those behaviors, build in those patterns, your brain starts to get used to, oh, it's just a little bit. And then you'll get to one point where you're like, there's not really much in here. Is this even doing anything for me? Probably not. That's a great point to try to move towards. Another key thing you can remind yourself when trying to quit alcohol for good is to remind yourself of your why. Remind yourself of your why. What does this mean? So there's usually something in our life that's really important for us, and if we're considering quitting alcohol, likely it's affecting some part of our life. Maybe we're gaining too much weight. Maybe our spouse isn't as happy with us. Maybe our love life isn't as good. Maybe we can't spend as much time with our friends. Our work has suffered. What is the most important why for yourself of why you would want to quit drinking alcohol? And remind yourself that frequently. Every time you have it near you, go back to that why. I want a better family. I want a better body. I want this. I want that. Consistent reminders of that why. The most important why for yourself are going to help greatly. And then don't beat yourself if you slip up. This is something that happens with so many people when they are ultimately first starting out their journey in health and wellness in general. they beat themselves up. They make one slip up. They think to themselves, oh, I'm just not going to do anything. It's okay. Get back on the wagon. Build those small behaviors. You can do this over time. You're going to do great.